for a crime, they get booked into a jail, their child can't go with them. Just like if I got arrested tonight, my child couldn't go with me. So it's not about family separation.
Well, the interesting thing about your argument is that these people committed no crimes.
You enter the United States illegally, it's a crime. It's 8 U.S.C., 8 United States Code 1325. It's a crime to enter the United States illegally.
Mr. Homan, sir, what type of policy do you envision that will help children who are fleeing harm's way with their parents usually or some significant person in their lives have the opportunity to be in a safe, secure, wholesome environment?
Well, first of all, if I can, your question about raising your hands, if you would have said if I support zero tolerance, I would have raised my hand. Not family separation, zero tolerance. You seem to confuse those two issues.
Okay, well, if you would, I'm going to ask that you kindly address my question, but since you raised zero tolerance, I'm not sure what you mean by zero tolerance. Are you saying zero tolerance, no one ever coming to the United States? Is that your zero tolerance policy?
No, you're referring to family separations that have happened under numerous presidents, not just this president.
Okay,
but zero tolerance, what you're referring to is family separations, zero tolerance that was put in place by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. It was zero tolerance to prosecute those who knowingly, intentionally violate our laws.
So, and supporting that policy, you would support family separation then?
Whenever someone gets arrested for a crime, they get booked into a jail, their child can't go with them. Just like if I got arrested tonight, my child couldn't go with me. So it's not about family separation.
Well, the interesting thing about your argument is that these people committed no crimes.
You enter the United States illegally, it's a crime. It's 8 U.S.C., 8 United States Code 1325. It's a crime to enter the United States illegally.
It is not a crime. It's a civil offense.
No, sir, it is not. It's a violation of Criminal Code, Title 8, United States Code 1325, illegal entry in the United States. First offense is a misdemeanor, second offense, if you've been ordered, removed, and returned, is a felony.
I agree with that. I don't differ with you on that point. But you would then separate the children.
If you have no option, if someone's being prosecuted and get sent to U.S. Marshal's custody or to the local jail, the child can't go with them. Happens to U.S. families every day across the country. I think what we're seeing today could have been prevented if Congress was to close the loopholes we've asked them to close. I mean, we proved back in FY 14 and 15 when I worked for Secretary Jay Johnson, who I respect greatly, you know, he let us build family detention to hold family units in the family residential center long enough to see a judge. And it took about 40, 45 days. And most of them, 90% lost their cases, and we sent them home. And the numbers went down. It worked. So we're asking Congress, look, we've already proved this worked under the Obama administration. How come we're not doing it now? You know, so I think Congress needs to fix this loophole. Let us detain families. If they're really escaping fear and persecution and death, I don't see a problem in being in a family residential center with medical care, pediatricians, child psychologists on staff, 3 squares a day, 6 sets of new clothes, access to lawyers, access to families. These are open air campus facilities. If it saves a life, and that's what I've been testifying the last 4 times. This isn't just about securing our border. This isn't just about enforcing laws, it's about saving lives. It's about 31% of women being raped. If we close these loopholes, we're going to save women from being sexually assaulted. We're going to save children from dying, and we're going to stop bankrolling criminal cartels who are making millions of dollars a day because of the laziness of this country not to fix the loopholes.
And you quote or give several statistics there in your written testimony, and I think that those are very important. And are those statistics that you give, are they supported by your 34 years of service to our country?
Absolutely. And one caveat, the chairwoman mentioned the 87%. I did not say 87% did not show up at a hearing. I said 80% lost their case. So that the innocence rate varies, but every number I quoted today in my testimony, and the numbers I just recently quoted, came off the Executive Office of Immigration Review, the Immigration Court website. They're open to the public. I printed these up last night. So these are immigration courts' own data. This is not my data. This is data coming from the immigration judges.
And let me ask you about a couple of those statistics that I pulled from your report, and just tell me if they're accurate to the best of your knowledge. 70% of illegal immigrants coming into the country now are family units. Is that accurate to the best of your recollection, the best of your knowledge?
70 to 72%. It varies every month.
And then it says here, as I see, that roughly 90% of all family units fail to show up for court proceedings.
That was, I quoted the acting Secretary McAleenan when he made that statement. That number does vary depending on when you look at it and what city you look at it. It can go anywhere from 90% not showing up to 40% not showing up. It depends on what court you look at. So that number fluctuates so much. So that 90% number I use, I quoted the Secretary, as the chairwoman mentioned a few minutes ago, in his testimony 6 months ago.
And what about 85 to 90% don't qualify? For those that do show up, then 85 to 90% don't qualify for asylum.
That's immigration court data. It shows it's anywhere from 13%, 12%, 13 to 15% for the 3 Central American countries that do not, they get a meritorious claim, 13 to 15%, which means 87 to 85% lose their case.
And then those that are ordered to be removed, less than 2% actually were removed or left the country. Is that correct?
Actually, it's closer to 1%, but I was generous saying 2%. It's actually, it's 1.6 just recently, but it's been 1.2 to 1.6. So yeah, most do not leave. And that's another enticement. That's why more people keep coming, because families in Central America, even though they know most will lose their case, they're not going home.
And there's, as I understand from your report, an 800,000 case backlog in the immigration court. Is that correct?
It's now over 1 million. There's 800,000, but I went to the website last night and they're reporting 1 million.
Would you agree that these figures are staggering, Mr. Homan?
Absolutely. I mean, when I was the ICE director, the backlog was already near 600,000. So what's happened in the last 2 years? Yeah, it sounds right to me.
And you say on page 3 of your report, you say illegal crossings are down, consistent from the high in May, but we are still at high numbers beyond last year. And then this is the sentence I want to highlight. The significant gains made on this issue are because of our president and the men and women of CBP and ICE, and not because of anyone in this room. First of all, I want to apologize to you that Congress has failed the American people. And I'd ask for you to deliver a message, and please tell the men and women of CBP and the men and women of ICE that we appreciate their hard work and what they do, and that there are still members of Congress who want to solve this problem. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I yield back.
My first question is for Mr. Homan. You know, we have talked about these loopholes in previous hearings as well, and you have eloquently talked about them just now. And I've said before, and I will repeat again, I think these loopholes actually incentivize people to travel thousands of miles, pay cartels huge amounts of money. A lot of the women are getting raped. We've had evidence how children are being abused by the cartels. And so changing some of these loopholes and clearing them, I think will help mitigate the entire problem. I think all of us care about people that are being abused. If somebody's being raped by cartels or children being abused by cartels, of course, none of us up here would want to ignore that. But there's a difference in how we should mitigate the problem. And so, Mr. Homan, I have 6 bills that I have introduced and sponsored that would try to clean up these loopholes, to stop incentivizing people from coming here. And one of them is to raise the credible fear standard for asylum, because as you said, the initial standard is too low, as evidenced by the numbers. I mean, like 85 to 90% of them pass the initial phase, but then, you know, a huge number, what is it, 86, 87%, when they finally go in front of a court, don't. So if we solve that problem with the loopholes, how would that affect this going back to Mexico, the MPP protocol? Could we get rid of it, do you think?
Well, certainly it would have an effect on it, because if we had a meaningful asylum bar that people who couldn't come up and just claim to say 2 or 3 key lines to get approval, they stop coming. Because, look, the bottom line is the data of the immigration courts are clear that 87% of these people do not qualify. or fail to show up. So if they know before they leave their homeland, spend their life savings making this dangerous journey, that the chance of getting approved because they know they're not escaping fear and persecution from the government because of race, religion, political beliefs, they'll stop coming. And enforcement of law has a meaningful effect. If you look at consequence to deterrence, it means something. And a couple of things I just want to add to this is, I've heard a lot of testimony here today, but I'm hearing today that people think the system's rigged against the immigrant now, but the approval rates and the denial rates have not changed from FY 14-15 to today. So if there's a fix put in, the denial rates back in 14 and 15 under our first family detention center were still about 87 to 90%. So the denial rate remains the same. So I don't see the correlation and there's this fix in. And as far as representation, does representation make it different? If you look at ERO data, the approval rate's anywhere from 10% to high to 20%, and representation rate has not changed beyond 20%, even though they're represented by attorney. And that's tracked in ERO data sheet. So representation really doesn't make a difference because they don't qualify, and the representation is not going to change the facts of the case. And this is all available on the Immigration Court database.
Thank you, Mr. Homan. Another question I have for you, Mr. Homan, is it fair to say that right now, the immigrants that are seeking asylum that are in Mexico waiting, are they able to say that, oh, I'm afraid to be in Mexico and have, get a hearing on that? I think my data says that, yes, they are. Fear screenings are established part of the program. And as of October 15, 2019, USCIS completed over 7,400 screenings to assess the fear of return to Mexico. So people that are in Mexico under this program can actually say, I'm afraid, and go in front of someone.
The interviews in the beginning, when they enter the United States, if they cannot be returned to Mexico if they establish a clear danger to return to Mexico, they'd be at, in harm's way. So that's in the front. They can't be sent back to Mexico without that interview occurring that there is no fear to return to Mexico. That's on the front end of that.
All right.
And I want to add one thing.
Sure.
I do think there are some in Central America that qualify for asylum. Mm-hmm. So I'm not painting with a broad stroke saying it's all fraud, but based on the data and the findings of the judges across this country, 80%, 87% do not. There are certainly people who certainly do fear return to their homeland, but the problem is when you got 80% rate of denial and fraud, you're backing up the system for the people in this world that are really escaping fear and persecution from their homeland, such as some of the African nations and other nations around the world, who really do need our help. And the system is being, asylum claims are up over 2,000% in the last couple of years. It's troubling for the ones that really do need our help.
I agree. And
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
Mr. Homan, is there anything you'd like to respond to what you've heard today?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to Acting Chairman J. Paul and your comment about the Trump administration moving money around for more detention beds. I'd like to remind you, under the Obama administration, we did that most of the years he was president. We moved money around DHS. It's called reprogramming. We did that under the Obama administration. I don't remember any hearings on that. And also, I'd like to remind you that under the Obama administration, I mean, you're quick to point out that the cages were built under Obama administration. I was there. Family detention, we had 100 family beds under Obama administration. We built 3,000 more. So when there was a surge in FY14 and FY15 on the border, Congress was quick to give all the money we needed to build detention facilities, get transportation contracts. We reprogrammed money out of the majority of the years he was president. That was fine. Under Obama administration, FY12, we removed 409,000 people, half of what was removed last year. There was no hearings on that. So this is about transparency. Let's be factual about it.
The time of the gentleman has expired. Since you did address some comments at me, I'll just say that I didn't like it under the Obama administration either. In fact,
well, be honest with the American people. You can't point out faults in the Trump administration when it happened under the Obama administration. That's dishonesty. It's pathetic and it's sad.
Mr. Homan, I control the time, and I am the chairwoman of the committee. Thank you for respecting that. I didn't like it under the Obama administration, and I'll remind you, Mr. Homan, that you also testified before Congress in support of the Obama's Priorities Enforcement Program before the Senate Judiciary Committee on May 19th, 2016, which had a very different approach.
Well, can I respond to that? Can I respond to that?
No.
Of course not.
And Mr. Homan, I want to give you some time, but I do want to ask one quick question, and I want to make one quick statement. I find it very offensive that anybody would compare any federal employee, frankly, to someone who, the Gestapo or running Nazi concentration camps. That is very offensive. I have 15 seconds and I yield it to you.
Thank you for saying that. I wish somebody in Democratic leadership would say that out loud. Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Homan, please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get me go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, we have approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one witness, one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority.
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
Ms. Homan, again, been one of them days you've sort of not had time.
I appreciate it. First of all, I think everybody needs to be reminded, entering this country illegally is a crime. There's no prerequisite. You got to commit yet another crime to enforce the law. That's the law you enacted. A young lady over here mentioned 26 deaths in ICE custody. Wrong. That number's 9, and 1's too many. But out of the majority of those 9 deaths, which is the lowest of any federal and state facility, most of them died within days of detention. It wasn't ICE's fault. They came in ICE's custody in bad condition. So, and the year before that, majority more heart attacks. I don't know how heart attacks happen across this country every day. I don't know how you prevent that. So 9, not 26. And finally, I'll say this, sir. Your comment about me wanting to assault a lawmaker. Let me explain myself to that. Probably not the right thing to say, but I was angry. Let me tell you why you're angry, because you or no one else in this room has seen what I've seen in my 34 years. You didn't stand in the back of a tractor trailer shot my 19 dead aliens that suffocated to death because the smuggler didn't care, including a 5-year-old boy. What do you think his last 30 minutes were like? I was there. I seen it, I smelled it, I saw it, and I had a 5-year-old boy at the time, and it changed me for the rest of my life. I've seen people who couldn't pay their smuggling fees get stabbed in the face 22 times. 31% of women are being raped crossing this border. Children are dying. Cartels are getting rich. Why am I angry? Because you haven't done anything to fix it. Nothing. We've been up here for 2 years trying to close the 3 loopholes that Collins said needs to be closed. And you haven't taken one action. But if there's a policy or initiative that's going to cause an illegal alien to be arrested or be detained or be removed, we're going to have a hearing within days. Within days. But I'm still waiting on a hearing on sanctuary cities because these people's lives have been changed forever. Where's the hearing on sanctuary cities? Where's the hearings? Where's the hearing on the asylum abuse? Where's the hearing on the TV PRA so we treat children from Central America better? That's why I'm angry, sir. I know it's not paying attention, but that's why I'm angry, because you have not seen what I've seen, and it affected me in my life. I spent my career trying to save lives. And when I see what's going on the southern border right now, and you're ignoring it for political reasons, why not have a hearing on that? Why not fix the problem and close the loopholes? Why not? There's no downside on securing our border. There's no downside on illegal immigration being decreased. There's no downside on less drugs come to this country. Opioids, ICE sees opioids kill every man, woman, child 3 times. There's no downside in taking money out of the cartel's hands.